All right, hey everybody, Stuart Anderson here with Duole Podcast, episode 109. This introduction is going to be just a little longer than normal. This is our podcast with Ard Kessels. He is the founder and owner of Kogel Bearings. Such a cool company and such an incredible guy. This is such a fun little podcast with him, talking about the creation of their ceramic bearings, talking about how he runs the company, what he's learned, how his product is different from ceramic speed, and just the inner workings of this idea behind making bearings better and making the systems that we ride better when he saw the need to create this little invention. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Ard. He's an awesome guy and really fun to learn about his product and to learn about Kogel. So hopefully you enjoy this episode. A couple of housekeeping items that I wanted to talk about. One, we have a team picture coming up. I don't want to date this podcast, so team picture is on the group me. You can see the calendar. You can look and make sure that you are there. We want as many people there as possible. We're going to be wearing the 40th anniversary kits, but be there for that. That is going to be an incredible opportunity to just be together, enjoy some camaraderie. It's 7 o'clock on August 21st at Sugar House Park in the Olympus Pavilion. That is where we're going to meet. If you don't have a 40th anniversary kit, I don't care. Just show up. We'll have a lot of extras for you to put them on, and so we can all match. So anyway, be there. Team picture, August 21st, 7 o'clock, Sugar House Park. Our last kit order went out from Duole and should be arriving shortly, so those are coming soon, and I'll be sure to let you guys know where they are and when they arrive to to get them out to everybody. So yeah, last kit order has already been taken care of. Finally, Canyons Challenge. If you're on the Duole team, we are so excited to make sure that you're part of the Canyons Challenge. So August 17th, Saturday, we are participating in this event that we have planned and created, especially Chip. Like, what a huge undertaking that he has done to plan and prepare Canyons Challenge for us. And with your team dues this year, with $120 team dues, it paid for you to participate in this event. So we took some of your team dues and applied it to the event. There's going to be a huge raffle and KOMs, lots of fun opportunities to win NV handlebars, skis, obviously a lot of support, and just a fun time together as a team. So right now there's 74 people that have registered, and the money that we raise, and a big shout out to Zane Miller and LHM Cycling for a huge charitable donation to this cause, to our event. Literally without him, it wouldn't have been possible. So very grateful for him and thankful for his contributions to the team and to the challenge. So it's just a awesome act of charity and kindness from Zane and the squad. So a big shout out to LHM. So if you haven't registered, you have to go to meduole.com. You'll see Canyons Challenge up in the top right corner of the website. That'll have all the links for the route to register and to participate with us on August 17th. So time's kind of ticking away there to be part of that event. All right, that's it for a little introduction. Grateful to have you with us for this episode, and hopefully enjoy Ard and Kogel Bearings. All right, thanks. All right, everybody, welcome to Duole Podcast. I'm Stuart, episode 109. We are so grateful. Like, special guest, not on our, well, I guess not officially on our team, but Ard, the CEO, is that what I call you? Owner and founder of Kogel Bearings, is joining us for today's podcast. Welcome, Ard.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll save the CEO title for when we have 50 employees. How's that?
Are you in El Paso? I know that's where the company is. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. I'm currently in El Paso, and I just quickly stepped away from the office because my office has the worst echo. So not great for making recordings.
Man, well, we're so grateful to have you with us. A month or so ago, you all know Joey Wood. Joey introduced the Kogel brand to me, and we made a formal introduction to the team with a discount and the brand. And from there, we kind of like one step after the other. Sarah, that works for Kogel, introduced the idea of like, let's get you on the podcast to tell the story and introduce the brand to anyone that doesn't know. And our main title sponsor, Cycling Upgrades, carries the Kogel brand and is a huge part of your distribution. So we're grateful to connect you and the team. And I'm just excited to hear your story, the story of the company. Ard sent me a bunch of blog posts, which I I spent all morning, very effective, reading everything about your brand. So really
Well,
fun. So grateful to have you.
fantastic.
Grateful to have you with us.
We've got a
Um,
golden rule for the blogs that any
yeah.
question will be answered.
Well, it's cool. I mean, some of the, and I hope we get to it, but I mean, the biggest discussion question that everyone, I mean, I assume it's why you wrote the blog post is ceramic speed versus Kogel. I mean, it's like that. When I asked a few guys, hey, what questions should I ask Ard? That was the main question: is what are the differences? What is the point? Like, why would I even replace all this stuff? So it'll be fun to discuss those things today. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. That blog post I wrote after going to Ironman World Championships and standing outside of a bike shop.
uh-huh.
Now, our presence in Ironman is not very big. We sponsor a couple of athletes. We sponsored Daniela Riff, who was considered the goat of triathlon. So that got me interested. And then I stood there outside of a bike shop promoting our product, and I answered that question at least 50 times. And by that time,
Great.
I was like, wow. If people
Crazy.
ask me this to my face, then they must be asking it to Google as well. So at least let me shoot up to the top of the SEO ranking.
Nice. Well, Art, do you want to give us just a little background of your own personal life, maybe how the brand started and how you got this idea to maybe leave a formal job or whatever you were doing in the past to say there is a place for this uh, company out there in the world. You want to tell that story?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm gonna go through this at 100 miles an hour. I'm
Let's
gonna
do
throw
it.
like 15 cities at you, and I'm gonna, in the end, there will be a test, and you
Okay.
have to remember all of them.
Okay.
Is that okay, Stuart?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So originally, I was born in the Netherlands. I've been educated in fashion. I have a degree in fashion management, and I worked as a garment engineer for multinationals. And the last job that I did in that was working for Lee Jeans in their headquarters, in their European headquarters in Belgium. So really developing the bringing the ideas from the designers who would come out, and I would go to vintage markets and then come back with fabric cuttings and ideas. It was my job to turn that into a sample, which we then could give to the salesman to go take on the road and make the sales. Um, I did that for about 10 years, and by that time I was so sick and tired of my job. I was just burnt out. So I was like, you know what, I've been riding and racing bikes all my life. So I was really into that. And I was like, you know what? I think it will be much more fun to be a bike mechanic,
Hmm.
which in Belgium is a protected job, like becoming a lawyer or a surgeon.
Right.
You need to go and be officially certified or get a diploma to do that. Thank God the study wasn't that long. It was 2 years in evening school.
Hmm.
So I'm a officially Belgian certified bike mechanic now.
That's cool. Okay.
Uh, and after yeah, I left my job in fashion. I already started working part-time in a shop to educate myself and get better at my new craft. And I started a bike shop, which I ran for about 3 years. It was the first time in Antwerp. Antwerp is the second city of Belgium. It was the first time that somebody opened a bike shop that was completely specialized in road and mountain bikes. It was a
Hmm.
small boutique shop, but yeah, I wouldn't handle any commuter bikes, no tandems, no cargo bikes. I really wanted to specialize in what my passion was, and that was very new to the country.
Nice.
Also, a Dutch person moving to Belgium and then starting a shop in what is considered their national sport or religion did,
Mm-hmm.
did not always go down well with everybody. So, while living in Belgium, I met my wife, who was from Chicago, and she always told me that she wanted to be a diplomat. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, honey. That's really tough. I don't believe we're gonna do that, so I'm not gonna slow down any of my work." Um, so as I'm happily tooling away in my bike shop, my wife at one night comes home and she's like, "I passed the test." And I was like, "What test?" I already brain dumped this whole situation. It's like, "I'm moving to America and they want me to start in like 25 days from now for training in Washington, D.C.,
Wow.
intercontinental move. Do you want to come?
Wow.
Or do you want to just stay here by yourself?" I was like, well,
Great question.
it was one of those beautiful things where it gets presented as if you have options.
Yeah.
Um, so being the good husband that I am, I sold my bike shop. Also, after 3 years, I realized how incredibly hard work retail is.
Hmm.
So I kind of ticked that box, and I sold my shop, moved to America, and then I needed a new project. My biggest frustration as a bike mechanic in a very wet climate was ball bearings because I was moving all
Mm.
these super high end, well, $10,000 at the time was like, hyper bikes. Now we call that mid level.
Right.
I want to say that unfortunately the situation where we ended up with these super high end bikes, I would send them out, and on Sunday people just go ride because rain, no rain, if you don't want to ride in the rain, you're not going to be a cyclist in Belgium. So
Mm.
people would just, put on a jacket and go out. And then 3 months later, come back and all the bearings would be rusted out on these, super high-end Pinarellos
Mm.
and specialized bikes. And they always blamed me for that. I was like, hey, I, I'm not the product manager at Specialized. So somebody decided that that $10,000 bike needed the cheapest bearings you can find on the market that are like 50 cents each
Mm.
because they're invisible. Like
Right.
you'll spend more time thinking about the color of your bottle cages typically than you do about what kind of ball bearings
It's
come in
true.
your wheels,
It's true.
even though they are at the heart of everything that makes your bike go fast.
Mm.
They're inside your wheels, inside your pedals, derailleur pulleys, like everything that goes around in circles has a ball bearing in it. So yeah, when I needed a new project coming to my new country with no connections whatsoever. I didn't need know anybody. I started Kogel, and yeah, I thought I gotta make the best possible ball bearings we can make for bicycles.
I love that.
So yeah, that was the first step. We lived in Washington D.C. for about my wife 9 months, and I joined her for 3 months. So that's where I started the company out of an apartment, and then her first assignment was in Juarez, Mexico. So for me,
Wow.
as a European, I never heard of that city, so I
Uh,
Googled it, and I shouldn't have done that. So yeah, we went in with the lowest of expectations.
Uh-huh.
2 years later, we had an absolute blast. I started Kogel right across the border in El Paso, Texas, in a little storage unit. And after 2 years, we loved the area so much. My wife's assignment was done. We already knew we were going back to DC for a year and then on to Munich, Germany.
Mm.
So yeah, I did business lead to the location, and I thought El Paso was perfect for that. Also, 300 plus days of sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
From coming from 200 plus days of rain, I was like, this
Yeah.
place is heaven.
That is awesome. And you're
So,
still
so
not,
that
that's
that is the
great.
start in a nutshell.
Very good. Um, One thing I thought was so interesting here, Art, I copied this from your website. It says, we all understand that ball bearings are at the bottom of every spec sheet when product managers assemble bikes for the catalog and the new model year. So it's almost a given that they are the cheapest available. These low quality steel products tend to not gel well, like you said, with the Belgian climate, where riding on wet roads is a given. Following the motto, just because it fits doesn't make it right, has sent Kogel on a mission to develop a native solution for almost every combination of crank and frame. I mean, is that so when you're picking up your S Works, right? Whatever, Pinarello, um, still the case. I mean, this is still the thing. Like they put those um, can you talk a little bit more about that story, that idea, um, like why they do it, and why no one
Well,
knows? It's
it's
not a thing that people talk about.
Well, it's very simple. Just imagine that you're the guy at Cannondale or Giant that gets to assemble that super fancy Lab 71 bike, and
Hmm.
even at that price level, they're price driven. Or let's dial that a little bit back. You're trying to assemble a really nice Ultegra Di2 level bike, but the company will just upfront tell you the retail price of this bike. So from there, you go calculating backwards, profit margins for the shop, profit margins for the brand, and then you have a budget left where you can buy bike parts from Shimano, from a wheel manufacturer, from all around to complete that bicycle. And that bike has to go into a catalog, and then oh, sorry, I just really realized I aged myself. Catalog, good one. So that bike has to go on a website for
Website.
for for this brand, and whatever is super visible is what attracts the person on the front picture. So putting making a red bike with a red handlebar tape on it, that's a nice match. That looks cool. um on that picture you cannot see what kind of cassette is on the bike or what kind of chain is on the bike.
Hmm.
So what happens quite a bit is that we're going to make this whole bike Ultegra equipped. We're going to call it Ultegra, but we're going to put a 105 cassette on it and a 105 chain.
Hmm.
But that way you spend a little bit less money on that part, and with that you can spend it where it's visible.
Hmm.
Imagine how invisible ball bearings are.
Right.
Like if cassettes and chains get downgraded, just imagine what people will do to bearings. It's like whatever fits in this hole and looks like a ball bearing very often gets installed.
Ard, imagine that some of the listeners here have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to bearings. Can you talk about the components that make, like, what are we talking about when you're talking about bearings?
Absolutely. Let me dial that back to the
Okay.
very understanding for the
Okay.
people that really think like what the heck is that?
Yeah.
So a ball bearing is something that looks like the logo, the O and the logo in my hat.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mm-hmm.
can, I don't know. If
Mm-hmm.
for the viewers, not for the listeners. Sorry for that. It sits basically in everything in your life that spins. So imagine it's in the steering column of your car. It is um yeah, if you think of a dentist drill, there's probably a ball bearing in or a power drill at your house. Like everything, it allows a fixed object and a rotating object to work together. So it's yeah, imagine you have a power drill, you have a rod that goes into it that spins fast. These are just basically two rings, and in between that there's tiny little steel, or in our case ceramic balls,
Mm.
and they reduce the friction. If ball bearings didn't exist, you would end up with a Flintstones wheel. So where people would just take a round shape and drill a hole in the middle and put a stick through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I was reading the blog post that you sent me, can you talk about what makes the difference here? I mean, there's so many different types. What is it when we're talking about bikes that makes this like matter? How are they cheaper? How are they better when you're comparing the ones that are just terrible to the
So
best?
think of a ball bearing. It has an inner ring and an outer ring. So one is fixed to whatever is stationary, and the other ring is fixed to whatever is rotating. In between are depending on the size, maybe 7 or 8 little balls. There we go.
Got it.
That's an image. And then in this picture, the brown part is a retainer, which is basically a plastic piece to keep the balls separated so they don't all bunch up in a corner. This ball bearing is like a chain. It is as good as the weakest link.
Mm.
So if um if you have the most perfect balls that are super super round, and you put that in the rings, and the rings aren't polished and they're kind of rough, like it's still gonna feel like you're driving a a Formula One car on a gravel road.
Mhm.
The two have to match well. So what makes quality is the hardness of the steel, so the bearings don't wear out, the roundness of the balls, the smoothness of the polishing of all the parts. So once all those things are optimized, what with high quality ball bearings, what usually makes the difference is the type of lubrication that you use.
Right.
Imagine using like a little drip oil that you would maybe use for a sewing machine versus some waterproof sludge that
Yeah.
was made for an oil rig.
Right.
Like that whatever you put in the ball bearing is going to make a big difference on the friction, but as well on the durability. Like the two are sort of opposing each other. And then what wasn't visible in the picture is the seals that are basically put on top of everything you see there to keep the grease inside and the dirt out. And with that, you can also build them for best protection or for lowest friction.
Nice. And when you shared a few blog posts with me, um, let's talk for just a minute about the biggest differences in this industry. Like what are you when you compare your brand to say Ceramic Speed? Because I did ask a few guys and they said, "Oh, I don't have Kogel, I use Ceramic Speed." I found that blog path. It was
Yeah,
fascinating. The different.
we
Okay,
can
he's shaking his
totally
head.
fix that.
Okay, will you talk about
Okay,
the difference?
before I
Yeah.
start, before we start this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not super common to name your competitors by name. Kogel only has one main competitor, and I think they think the same about Ceramic Speed, thinks the same about Kogel. We're in a niche industry, and I have always treated the brand with respect. They were around a decade before Kogel, so if it wasn't for them, maybe we wouldn't even be using ceramic bearings uh, on bicycles. Like they introduced that way before anybody else thought about it. So I always treat them with respect. With all that said, let's dive into the nitty
Okay.
gritty.
Okay.
I think the main difference that I also describe in the blog is that Ceramic Speed is a company that is hyper focused on reducing friction in your drivetrain, and that is sort of no holds barred. We're gonna see how we can make a bicycle the fastest bicycle on the planet,
Mhm.
and that is wonderful if your name is
Matthew
Tadej
Penn.
Pogacar and you
Yeah.
travel with a personal mechanic that every time you're done riding, you're like, hey, Bobby, take it here, make it perfect for when I go out again. We see this a lot with the mountain bike downhill athletes that we work with on the World Cup circuit. That once we started doing that, it was eye opening to me. It's literally one bike, one mechanic.
Wow.
It's like this is at the time John Hall was Aaron Gwyn's famous mechanic, and he literally said, "This is my bike, and Aaron gets to ride it." So for
Mm.
23 hours of the day, the bike was with John, and then Aaron got to pick it up, make it all dirty, and it went back to John. If you do that level of service, you can push these bearings to the limit to drive them to the absolute lowest friction with like
Mm.
very thin lubrication. Uh, think about when we sponsored the Lidl track team and Ellen van Dijk was chasing the world hour record. So we knew we were making a bearing that was made to go 3,600 seconds on an oval track in a clean environment. That bike needed very little protection. We used the fastest, thinnest lube on it that we could find. And that is what I feel is Ceramic Speed as a brand is chasing.
Mm.
Where my opinion is different is that is all perfectly fine, but the moment you start giving this product to a consumer who wants the fastest, it sounds great because everybody wants to be the fastest, even if you're trying to win your local group ride. In
Hmm.
El Paso, we have Wednesday night worlds, and I would spend the world to get one place to the front on the finish line.
Mm.
So what I also know is that me as a consumer, I take my bike to the shop maybe twice a year for a full teardown. I may loop my chain, but sometimes last week's loop is also fine. Like there's a whole different level of service and maintenance that goes into that bike. And for that reason, I always felt that we need to build in a safety buffer.
Mhm.
So the oil that we use doesn't run out after 200 kilometers of use.
Right.
So that's where I always feel like we both use the same grade of ceramic balls that have the same roundness and the same yeah, the bearings that we use are very similar to the other company.
Mm.
But what we do is we set this up so it's for the everyday racer, not just for the guy who travels on the private jet and travels
Right.
with a personal mechanic.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, in the post it says, if you're a rider that takes good care of your bike, imagine weekly cleaning at home, bringing your bike to the shop once or twice a year for a full teardown, like you said. Kogel is probably better suited for your needs. All our bearing products required annual service to maintain their warranty status. Um, I I guess I'd never. It's funny because before I started doing some research, I had never thought about two things. I'd never thought about um, the type of bearings that were being put on the standard bike. I always thought when I saw these flashy, upgrades, I was like, oh, I don't need a new paint job on my derailleur or the bearings. But this is so much more than that. When you're riding a machine that's so expensive, why would you skimp on something so essential, so important to the quality of what you're riding? So I love that. Um, another art, one of the blog posts that I thought was really interesting, and maybe some thoughts that you could talk about is maybe this isn't for everybody. I love that you wrote this 5 reasons why it might not be for you. This is really interesting. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely, yes. So we we have a sales team and sometimes we meet for a daily sales huddle, we role play just to get the day started in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
just to get everybody's brain fired up. And we try to come up with new ways to sell Kogel, or in this case, sometimes you might be talking to somebody who really is so far away from Kogel that there's no point. Like I would, just imagine our $500 derailleur cage. If you're showing up on your Huffy that has 7 speed, no disrespect if you ride one, but I would probably advise you to not, double the value of your bike with a Kogel part.
That's awesome. Okay.
So, it's a good. Have you ever, Stu? Have you ever Googled the name of a company and problems behind it?
Mm-hmm. I have many
Yeah,
times. Yeah.
same. My new employer problems. Anything. So that is something that people do on the internet. So we try to capture the negative connotation, and it's been a long time. I think one of the advice that I gave is like if your bike is less than $3,000, probably Kogel isn't really your upgrade because that $3,000 bike will have parts on it that with you can make better gains
Mm.
in the quality of your ride. I'm gonna assume that if you buy a bike at that price level, it's got some round aluminum handlebars on it
Wow.
and a saddle that technically has a name brand on it, but
Mm.
it's probably not their best one. So if you're gonna spend that Kogel money on buying a nice saddle and buying maybe some handlebars that you can lean on and that are comfortable, that maybe have a bit of damping in it, you're going to improve your ride quality by so much more than by saving 2 watts with a ceramic derailleur upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if your goal is to make that bike look flashy, then guys, we're doing new neon pink and green Cerakote colors.
Mm-hmm.
Like if your goal is to make that bike flashy, I'm not going to stop you. Please call me.
Yeah, I love that. Hey, Art, can you talk a little bit about the science behind your product? What goes into developing them? Maybe what your factory even looks like what your team looks like. Can you just talk about the company for just a minute? Introduce us to how you run the company and America, international, just some details behind a little more details about who you are and how it kind of runs.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of ways we can take this conversation.
Okay,
From
good.
a business perspective, like I said, in 2014, I started the company by myself in a storage unit with a roll-up door, where it was just me and handwriting names on envelopes every day. Crossing the border from Mexico, I would work from home in the mornings and then cross the border from Mexico, go to the storage unit, pack my orders, bring them to the post office. Yeah, 10 years forward, we're a team of 12 to 15 people. We're sponsoring some of the best athletes in the world, and we're shipping our product to riders everywhere. I think last year we shipped products to 66 countries. So it's
Nice.
really, really amazing that we can influence people's riding experience and on such a global scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, no, go ahead.
No. Keep going. You said you can keep
Okay.
going.
So that is what the business side of it is. Sometimes I need to pinch myself for where we have been. Uh, on the product side, like I said, I'm a engineer by background, even though my knowledge is in fabrics and in sewing. To translate that to aluminum and bearings was just a matter of learning a new material, a new product. Like I already had the skills to do the development. Um, yeah, and what we've always believed in is designing the product, doing some basic in-house lab testing, and then just sharing that with as many people as we can to get the feedback on these products.
Hmm.
I'm not a huge proponent of lab testing. Like we do this to validate initial concepts, but I did not fall in love with this sport so much to the places where I love to ride, nobody's wearing white lab coats. Let me say it this way. It's there's no bright white lights. I, we just love sending our products out. So the beginning phases of our product testing was sponsoring the United Healthcare team, which was the biggest domestic road cycling team. And at that time, I want to say they were running as close to a world tour team in budget and presentation as they could. So in our first year, we sponsored the team, and they had I think 29 or 30 riders between the full size men and women's team, and they put 600,000 kilometers, I think, between all of them in the entire year. And once I talked to the mechanics, turns out that they serviced 3 bottom brackets on home bikes throughout the entire year.
Hmm.
Those mechanics love me because no mechanic wants to be servicing bearings until 2 a.m. in a stage race. The smart setup that they did was that they came from a bad experience where they did have to do that. Lots of service, lots of replacements on bottom brackets. So they asked for our best protection seals or cross seals to be put on their road bikes.
Hmm.
Again, an example of adding half a watt of friction to the bike, but it served the purpose for the mechanics and for the durability. That was a big validation. The other one that we had was working with Helen Wyman in cyclocross. And for people younger than I am, Helen Wyman is a 10 times British and 2 times European cyclocross racer that lived in 10 times champion in the UK and 2 times European champion. Lived in Belgium full time and did all the super ankle and knee deep cross races there. I was introduced to her and her husband, who's the mechanic, and they were at the point where they were replacing their bottom brackets every race.
What?
And that's a clear example of like, hey, we're gonna replace this stuff all the time. Anywhere we're gonna buy the cheapest crap we can find.
Hmm.
But racing in Belgium often happens on Saturday and Sunday, and the poor husband mechanic was literally once they came back from a hard day of standing in the pits and spraying down bikes and driving home, he was the one in the garage knocking out the bottom bracket for tomorrow's race.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're still very good friends. Steph Steph really loved coming on board with Kogel, and same thing. Helen runs 4 bikes for a season that get rotated throughout the race, and I think they broke one bearing
Wow.
in the entire season. So
Incredible.
again, field testing always sounds a little bit more exciting to us than doing the lab tests.
Yeah. Ard, I want to share my screen because I wanted to talk about some of I mean, when I'm on your site, right, you can see this. Let's say I'm me Duole rider, racer, whatever, and I'm looking at my bike and I get on here. Will you talk about where do we start? I think that would resonate with the team is
Absolutely,
how do
yeah.
you like how do I upgrade? Where do I even begin this process?
You went to the exactly worst page for
Okay.
where do I start. I love it. Stay on there. Stay on there. I'll
Oh, okay.
explain it.
Okay.
You went to the bundles page. So
Sorry.
so for the team members that they're like, oh man, this guy sounds so entertaining and I love his product. Yes to all. Like go to the bundles page. Here's our if you scroll down, I think there's one that there you go. The Bling bundle has pretty much every product that we sell.
Nice.
If you're looking for a step-by-step approach, our main product categories that Kogel makes are bottom brackets, derailleur upgrades, and then wheel bearings, and around that we make a whole bunch of accessories. So
Okay.
I always advise customers to first look at the bottom brackets. This is where our company started. This is where we spent a lot of time looking at the frames. And when Kogel started in the early 2020 teens, it was the time where the bottom bracket standards were exploding. It was every time there was a new frame on the market, it looked like they found a new way to drill a hole in it for the pedals. So it was at the time super complicated. The typical approach was like, let's see what bearing fits in the frame, and then we're going to use a bunch of plastic stacked up adapters and rings to make it fit for the crankset. Kogel started making a native solution. So if you have a frame that is pressed for 30 and you run a Shimano crank on it, we make a native product that uses no adapters, that just presses into the frame, that puts the bearings as close to the crank arms as possible to make the widest possible platform. And this is all with the intention of making it as stiff as possible. Sometimes people ask us about the weight of our bottom bracket, and the answer is always like, we do not design it to weight. We design it to be strong. If it happens to come out super light, that is nice. But if you think about it, all those years of doing squats and all that power that comes out of your legs has to go through your pedals, through the frame, into the chain, and eventually to your rear wheel. That power transfer all happens in the bottom bracket. So stiff, rigid, and strong are words you should be using about a bottom bracket, not light and flimsy.
Great advice.
So I always advise, nobody loves a creaking bottom bracket. We get a ton of calls from people that have a creaky bottom bracket, and then we send them a new one, and then they call us back and they're like, the creak is still the same. I found it out. It was my derailleur hanger, or it was a loose chainring bolt, or I'll give you a list of 10 things that sound just like a bottom bracket. So, but when in doubt, always blame the bottom bracket. Is our golden rule in the office.
That's what I'm going to name this podcast.
I love that.
When in doubt,
So,
blame the bottom.
That's why I advise people, not because this saves you the most friction, but because this is the biggest problem solver that we have in our line.
Nice.
After that, I usually advise people to look at derailleur upgrades, because they bring some some benefits. We have oversized derailleur cages, or that for people that don't want to commit to that, we just have pulleys, which we make slightly bigger than the stock pulleys to whatever the standard derailleur cage will accept. So you get some drivetrain friction reduction in that. But nice thing is as well, you can choose it in many colors. So it will bring a bling factor. I'm a bike snob. Everybody knows that a good-looking bike is faster. So this is usually where we point people. And then lastly, look at wheel bearings. Wheel bearings probably are the ones that bring you the biggest performance gain for the reason that as long as you're sitting on your bike and you are moving, those bearings are under load and moving with you. As long as the bike is riding, those bearings are moving.
Yeah.
So these are always at work in, as opposed to a bottom bracket where as soon as you stop pedaling, it's just sitting there.
This is awesome. This is bad news that I'm on this website right now.
Fantastic.
Well, I know we did a giveaway of at our team camp, and Corby, I know, gave away, auctioned off some of these pulleys. This is high-end fun stuff for anybody looking to upgrade your drivetrain or your system or anything you're working on your bike. So this is so fun. Ard, when you look at the future, or you're in an industry where you are seeing things that we don't see, what are you most, I don't know, excited about, or what are you seeing that's happening in your world that maybe we could be prepared for?
That is a good question. Personally, I'm excited about e-bikes, and that is a controversial thing to say to a group of racers.
Nah.
Just for the reason I have an mountain bike, and what I love about it is not the fact that I can go take all the KOMs, because they're already taken by all the other e-bikes anyway. I'm very excited that this bike can take me to places that are normally out of reach. So my favorite ride to do is, we have the highest point of El Paso is a mountain called Northern Peak, and it's a hiking trail. It starts off by one of the big climbs that everybody's on a gravel and they're mountain bike trails, so there's no road bikes there. It starts on gravel, dirt roads kind of things, and once you hit the top to where people cycle to, excuse me, there's a lot more ground to be covered on that mountain, which is normally considered a hiking trail. There's another Jeep road, which is, in my opinion, too steep to ride up, unless your name is Nino Schurter. Then it's probably not an issue. And then it goes to a part that is, too chunky. It's all rocks, like we live in the desert, so everything's very dry. And then sometimes, you're trying to make it up these things, and it's like riding on ball bearings. Like the rocks are just skipping under your wheels. Yeah. On a road bike, on a I hate the word analog mountain bike. Well, okay, like a traditional mountain bike. Can we say?
I like analog. I think that's.
I also don't want to say normal mountain bike because we want to be inclusive. On my previous mountain bikes, which I still have and ride, it was impossible to get up there. And now with my e-bike, I can make it to the top. I can enjoy the beautiful view, and the best thing is that hike up and down takes 5 hours, which does not match my attention span at all. I can do it on the e-bike in probably an hour up and 30, 40 minutes down. So it's great fun. I get to go to places where I can come on a traditional bike. Downside of e-bikes is that there's no bottom bracket on it. So we're losing a little bit of customer there. What I always push for people is mountain bikes, e-bikes shift under full power. There's no way, like on a traditional bike, you try to back off the power, shift, and get back on the pedals. That doesn't happen on an e-bike because there's a delay. When you stop pedaling, the bike still goes for 2 seconds or whatever the time is. So these bikes always shift under full power, and our derailleur cages are designed to be so stiff to actually handle that better than the stock derailleur.
Nice.
Anyway, so yeah, e-bikes are exciting to me at the moment. What I find very exciting is seeing the new developments that seem to be jumping across the industry. There's been a few years where I felt that road bikes were just dead from a development perspective, like
Mm,
nothing really new was coming out. And then for a while, the they were stealing all the mountain bike technology for the disc brakes, and then yeah, anything that wasn't a mountain bike, the shadow derailleurs from Shimano, everything just came straight off the XTR group sets.
mm,
Um, and then I feel right now that road bikes are very much in development. First, the development of a climbing bike versus an aero bike. Now we're at the
mm,
point where climbing bikes can be so good that there's no point in having an aero bike anymore. It
mm.
it seems to move around the industry, and I find that very, very fascinating.
That's awesome. I love it's so fun that I mean, uh, I get nervous sometimes that my hobby, of doing this would be ruined if I ever entered your industry or did something where, it was a full-time job. But it's fun to see your passion for everything that revolves around how cool this industry is and what it offers to people. So, yeah, I get nervous sometimes. You go to those bike shops and you wonder about the owners if they even enjoy cycling anymore. With
Oh.
sometimes they're a
Well,
little
the
grumpy about.
first thing I learned when I joined the bike industry was that you get to ride your bike a lot less, unless
Yep.
you're a journalist, or unless you're incredibly committed to like getting out super early to go ride your bike because the shop still needs to open at 9
Right.
a.m. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is definitely that's something that's more challenging when I worked for a boss and when I was a racer. I always say I would pick up my to-do list at 6 o'clock to see what could wait for tomorrow, and that was pretty much everything.
Mm.
And then the day I was self-employed and I looked at my to-do list at 6 o'clock, I get real nervous.
Nice. I like that. I understand that feeling. That's fun. Hey, well, everybody listening, um, Kogel and Ard, one of the first things they asked is when we did the podcast, can we offer the team discount? So we have a discount code for everybody. Listen, me Duele, and then the number 20. And I'll include that when we post this to the team. But so excited to partner with you guys. Big kudos to Joey for connecting us and to Sarah. Thankful for her that all the work she's done to connect us together. Anything else, Art? Did we miss anything before we wrap up?
No, first of all, thank you for mentioning that code because I have been on several podcasts and every single time I forget it. And I said, okay, I'm going to go on the Midwell podcast and I'm not going to leave it for the end for the people that stick around to listen to us yap
Yeah.
here for an hour. I was like, I'm
Good
going to
yapping.
mention that at the beginning. And now I forgot that.
No, I'll
So
put it in the
thank you
beginning.
for
Don't worry.
thank you. No, please. It's it's a great offer. We love connecting to the people from the Midwell team. I can understand if you're new to driller upgrades and to ceramic bearings that you have a lot of questions. Please reach out to our sales team. We are very committed to picking up the phone. We understand that nobody loves calling a company and either have the thing go to voicemail or
Mm,
to end up in a phone tree.
right.
So we have a voicemail, but it's just to capture your call in case we miss it, in case everybody's on the phone. But yeah, we have a rule in the office that says if the phone rings twice, it is for you.
Nice. That's a good rule.
So please, we love talking to our customers, to people who have questions. If you want to share your passion, we have the right people to come and listen to you, and we can set you up for an amazing ride.
Well, it's one thing I was very impressed with is how responsive you are and Sarah have both been in this whole process. I'm not saying it's rare nowadays, but it's almost like companies are trying to find ways to remove that element of the company. So it's refreshing to find a company that continues to do that, that looks at the people that you connect with as a very important part of your company. So
Well,
kudos.
yeah, for me, you can thank Expedia for that. I had some travel issues with them, and I just cannot stand a company where you have to
Yeah.
go on Google to find their phone number because it's not on the first page of their website.
Yeah, terrible.
So, yeah, no, that terrible customer experience, we're hoping to do the opposite of it. So,
Very good.
once
Hey,
again,
well,
please reach out, email, text. We respond to everything.
all right, man. Well, when you ever been to Utah? You ever come here?
I have,
You
yes,
have?
I've been to the Ironman World Championships when
In
that was
St. George.
relocated from Hawaii. That
Yeah.
was beautiful in St. George. I've been to Salt Lake City, drove around there for a bit. We've visited our friends at Ari Bikes.
Mm.
We set up a booth there at one of their expos once. So I know Utah is beautiful. I spent a weekend there with my wife, and since then she's fully committed to moving to Utah for retirement. So maybe
Okay, cool.
maybe you'll see us in about 60 years
Yeah,
when
okay.
I'm tired of entrepreneuring.
Okay, great. I'll keep your number. We can ride together. Nice.
Love it, love it. I look forward to it, Stu.
Okay, man. Thanks for everything.
Much appreciated. Thank you for having me.